You may think that birds are the most magnificent things that can fly, but don't be deceived by their small size. They're actually the direct descendants of the biggest flying dinosaurs to ever roam the skies. And these dinosaurs were absolutely massive. Hi, it's me, and welcome to Paleologic. Today we're going to talk about the largest flying dinosaurs ever to live. If you've ever seen a California condor, then you know these birds aren't exactly small. These enormous birds can have a wingspan of up to 9 feet and weigh over 20 pounds. But compared to the flying dinosaurs they're related to, condors are tiny. The biggest flying dinosaur ever discovered was the aptly named Titanosaurus. This dinosaur had a wingspan of over 30 feet and weighed more than 3 times as much as a giant like the Argentinosaurus. Yes, all those other dinosaurs that we've talked about on this channel, like the Spinosaurus or the Giganotosaurus, those were all small compared to Titanosaurus. These giants lived during the late Cretaceous period about 80 million years ago. The supercontinent of Pangaea had broken apart and the Atlantic Ocean was wide and deep because of the configuration of the continents at this time. Scientists think that Titanosaurus most likely lived in what is now South America or Africa. Just like modern-day birds, Titanosaurus was a feathered dinosaur. But unlike birds, it had a long, stiff tail that helped it steer while it was gliding through the air. In fact, because of this tail, paleontologists originally classified Titanosaurus as a type of sauropod, the same group that includes the famous Diplodocus and Brachiosaurus. However, new studies suggest that Titanosaurus was actually more closely related to another group of dinosaurs called the theropods, which includes everything from small, quick-hunting dinosaurs like velociraptors to giant meat-eaters like Tyrannosaurus rex. So why were theropods like Titanosaurus so big? Scientists think that the reason some theropods grew so large has to do with the way they hunted. When animals hunt other animals for food, it's called predation. And one of the rules of predation is that the bigger the predator, the bigger its prey can be. Take wolves, for example. Gray wolves typically hunt in packs, and they prey on large mammals like deer and bison. If there aren't enough large mammals in an area, then the wolves have to get bigger in order to find enough food. Over millions of years, this process of natural selection caused some theropods to evolve into some truly gigantic animals like C. megalodon. But not all theropods were huge. Some theropods were small, like the velociraptor. So why didn't these smaller theropods just eat smaller prey? Wouldn't that have been easier than trying to bring down a full-grown deer? It turns out that some small theropods hunted in groups, kind of like wolves. So even though they were small, they could still take down big prey. However, there's a limit to how small a theropod can be before there are any animals in the ecosystem that it can hunt for food. That limit for small theropods seems to have been about the size of a turkey. So unless these dinosaurs were willing to switch to a diet of plants, they would eventually have to grow bigger. But getting big has its downsides. You may have noticed that you get winded if you try to run when you're overweight. Well, the same thing happened to theropods. They got bigger and bigger. They needed more and more energy to power their enormous bodies. So instead of running around on the ground, these theropods took to the skies. And it turns out that being big wasn't such a bad thing after all. It's thought that Titanosaurus used its enormous wings to soar effortlessly through the air, riding air currents high above the ground. It would have been perfectly adapted for long-distance travel, able to glide over entire continents in search of food. But like all good things, Titanosaurus's reign at the top of the food chain didn't last forever. About 66 million years ago, a rocky asteroid about 6 miles wide slammed into the coast of Mexico. This event, which we now call the Chicxulub impact, killed off not only the dinosaurs, but also about 75% of all plant and animal species on Earth. It's believed that the impact caused massive earthquakes, tsunamis, and wildfires across the globe. After the dust settled, a nuclear winter began and lasted for months or even years. No large animals were safe. Not a single Titanosaurus was able to escape what was coming. Today, Titanosaurus remains one of the most mysterious dinosaurs of all time. Because of this, many people believe that the Titanosaurus faked its own death and somehow managed to survive the impact. However, there is no evidence to support this claim. Instead, the fossil record shows that the Titanosaurus went extinct along with the rest of the dinosaurs. After the asteroid impact, it would take millions of years for large animals to repopulate the Earth. Birds evolved from small, flightless dinosaurs that chose the wrong time to become extinct. And thus, the descendants of Titanosaurus would go on to become the magnificent creatures we see soaring through the skies today.